Defense Authorization Act through in a bipartisan measure. Anytime this Congress does something in a bipartisan way, I'm suspicious of it. But we'll get to it coming up in a moment. But first,
I am Locutus of Borg. Resistance is futile.
That's right. Resistance is Futile is the name of her book, How the Trump-Hating Left Lost Its Collective Mind. And she is Ann Coulter with a special Thursday appearance. Hey, Ann, how are you?
Fantastic. How are you, Larry?
I'm good, but I'm getting tired of saying the same thing all week long. I keep having to say, I know about the Jeffrey Epstein story because I've been reading Ann Coulter for the last decade and a half. Ann Coulter has forgotten more about Jeffrey Epstein than you people will ever know. There must be quite a week for you to finally see this story get some attention.
I feel like I'm in heaven. One of my best friends, who is usually insulting me, called me yesterday. I didn't have any time, and he said, I said, I'm about to do radio, I have to go. And he said, I'm calling to compliment you, and reminded me that since 2006, I've been begging the media to do this story. I did get Bill O'Reilly to do it. He did a lovely segment on it right as the story first became public. It was all over the Palm Beach papers, and that was about it. But a pretty big story. This was the same prosecutor. Well, I guess I should back up. The heroes and villains in this story are really pretty clear. I mean, as people just tuning in right now are figuring out. But I would say the biggest hero is the chief of police of Palm Beach, and several of his policemen, but one in particular, Riccarni, I think his name is. He died a couple of years ago, though he was only 50. But those guys, they just kept going and going and going, and they came under vicious attack. Epstein's, defense forces, private eyes, and lawyers were investigating their personal lives, going through their garbage. They didn't back down, but Alex Acosta did.
Right.
But the real villain, the much bigger villain than Alex Acosta at the time, he seemed like the white knight riding in, because it was the state attorney for Palm Beach County there in Florida, Barry Krischer, whom you will recall spent 3 years going after Rush Limbaugh for back pain medication. Look, it may be against the law, but everyone knew at the time, or what, I don't know the details of it, I shouldn't have even said that. When somebody gets caught abusing back pain medication after a back operation, immediately puts himself into rehab, they never face prosecution. Never. I mean, unless it's, a repeat offense and it's just a drug dealer of some sort. But no, Barry Krischer wanted to make a name for himself.
Yeah, they treated him like a character in The Wire.
All those years, I think he was also behind. I'm not sure that this can be proved. I don't know if you remember when the customs agent, when Rush was flying back from, golfing in the Bahamas or something, go through his luggage and publicize that they found, an unopened bottle of Viagra.
Yeah.
And that makes international news.
Yeah.
Just to humiliate him, just to embarrass him. Barry Krischer is, of course, an activist Democratic donor, according to sources, though I don't know that this is true. About that time, it was when Hillary was gearing up to run for president. In 2008, the first time, Krischer was up in D.C., looking at real estate. No, he was totally being rewarded for going after conservatives in Palm Beach. According to the chief of police in Palm Beach, Michael Ryder, again, the hero who pursued this case against Epstein in a fantastic 11-month investigation. I mean, a lot of times when things happen in small towns, Jean-Benet Ramsey in Boulder and that poor girl in Greenwich who was killed perhaps by a Kennedy. I guess he was convicted, and then the conviction was overturned. A lot of times the small-town police aren't really that impressive. You want to bring in the New York City police. Oh, my gosh, the Palm Beach police did a fantastic job. They got a tip back in 2005 from a woman that her stepdaughter was being paid to have sex with a rich man in Palm Beach. So the Palm Beach police interviewed the girl. They got enough information, figured out it was Epstein, and then Each girl they would interview would describe, well, and by the way, these were often disadvantaged girls, often girls from broken families who needed money, and he'd pay them $200 for the naked massage. Then he enjoyed pushing them beyond that to perform sex acts, and when they got uncomfortable with it, he'd say, okay, just bring me another. If you bring me, I'll give you another $200 just for bringing me another underage girl. They were mostly aged 14 and 15. And so through this process, the Palm Beach police ended up with dozens of underage girls who had been paid to go to Jeffrey Epstein's disgusting lair, and oh my gosh, the descriptions of it are so disgusting, and have sex with him. This was a pretty big case, but the Palm Beach attorney Barry Krischer, who spent all this time going after Rush Limbaugh for fun and just to associate, criminal in the same sentence so that Keith Olbermann could gloat about it every night. As the investigation was ongoing, obviously, the police have to go to the state attorney to get subpoenas to oversee the investigation. But the chief of police said, I never said who the man was. I just described what we were finding out. And Barry Krischer kept saying to me, this is someone we have to put away. Yeah, he thought it was going to be somebody like Rush Limbaugh. As soon as he finds out it's Jeffrey Epstein, big Democratic donor, friend of Bill, suddenly, according to the sworn testimony of the police chief, Krischer, his attitude totally changes. No, now he doesn't want to do anything. No, we have to ease up on this guy. And then instead of charging him with this mountain of evidence, the police had sworn statements from 17 witnesses. They had phone messages. They had girls leaving phone messages for Jeffrey. I can't come over because of soccer practice. They had loads of evidence from the procurers, the madams, the housemen, the whole thing tied up in a bow, handed to the state prosecutor, and he takes a powder. Instead of bringing charges, no, I'll present this to the grand jury. It sounds like that's doing something. No, in Florida, you don't present, if you have the evidence, you don't present the case to a grand jury. It's typically done in death penalty cases because that's, a big case. No, that's just a trick. When you don't want to bring charges, no one can see what you're saying to the grand jury. But weirdly, don't think Barry's heart was in it, the grand jury doesn't return any indictments for sex with minors, lewd and lascivious conduct with minors, nothing against Epstein's co-conspirators. Au contraire, no, they produce a single count for solicitation of prostitution. And the sentence will be probation. There are dozens of girls, of these poor, innocent girls whose lives were often wrecked by being pushed into this because they wanted the money. It is. He is the real villain. At that point, the chief of police goes mental. He starts denouncing Krischer. They had worked for years together very closely, but he can't believe this. And he asks for the FBI to come in. Now,
Ann, can you pause? I got you to pause there because I got to take a quick break, but I told everyone she knows more about this story than anyone else. Wait there, because that's where now it suddenly has become a Republican scandal, and I want you to get into that and tell me what that's about. So we stick with Ann Coulter, who, again, is the definitive go-to person on this Epstein story, but first we got to check in with Ed Rodriguez in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
Live and local. You're listening to The Larry O'Connor Show.
The Jeffrey Epstein saga is a despicable one, and thank God now it appears finally Mr. Epstein will face justice and punishment, more importantly. But as you tell this tale, Ann Coulter, I mean, how did the feds get involved with this in the first place? Because almost everything you're describing right now is a state issue.
Exactly, which our media apparently do not understand. I mean, it's really been stunning to me reading how they subtly leave out the true villain of this case, Barry Krischer, and act as if the local Palm Beach police investigating a Palm Beach man's sex with underage girls from across the Intracoastal, West Palm Beach. How does this become a federal case? Right. Now, obviously, it can be done, but by and large, the sex would have had to take place, in a federal park, or through the use of interstate commerce, the mail, and so on, which is what the Southern Districts of New York federal office is looking at now. They're getting more of a trafficking charge and not just the underage sex charge. So the chief of police, who had this beautiful case, and pretty much everything we know about this case we know about because of the Palm Beach police. We're getting a few add-ons now, but the real story was right there. They had it all. They gave it to the state prosecutor, sleazebag Barry Krischer, and he takes a dive on it. So Michael Ryder, the chief of police, goes mental. He's denouncing Krischer, and he's begging the FBI to come in. So, at that point, thank you, Alex Acosta. Acosta says, yeah, this is outrageous. We're going to look into this. I'm deploying the FBI. FBI starts looking into it. Acosta's office is doing it. And then, sorry, but that's when Acosta really, really blew it because he's a pussy. He described why he backed down and gave this better than what Krischer got, but this ridiculous non-prosecution agreement to Epstein. He describes it in an article he wrote a couple of years ago when this first came up, when the victims sued his office for making this agreement. Jane Doe 1, 2, 3. Now we're up to like Jane Doe 103. Alex Acosta wrote an article in the Daily Beast talking about the stunning attacks his office had come under, how their lives, the personal lives of the attorneys were being investigated, they were being followed, they're worried about their families. Yeah, okay, it sucks. I've gone through it for 15 years. The Palm Beach police were going through it. The victims were going through it.
Think about what they were going through.
The dweebs in the U.S. Attorney's Office. Okay, whatever you want. This is mean. So no, he was a chicken. It was bad.
So his behavior
you can have a nuanced view of this and say Alex Acosta totally blew this case, and also say, oh my gosh, he is so far from the worst villain here. He at least got some jail time for Epstein. He at least got Epstein to register as a sex offender, something Krishner had totally blown off. No jail time, no registration. And there was an agreement that Epstein would have to pay the attorney's fees for, I think it was up to 30 victims of his. Under federal law, I believe they got $150,000 apiece. But the victims were all saying there is, under federal law, the reason we hear more about Acosta is because at least under federal law, there's this wonderful law that was passed not very long ago, the Victim Rights Act. Where victims, went to Congress and said, can we have as many rights as the criminal defendants get? Can you at least let us know as cases are proceeding? So that is all written into law, and what Acosta did was against the law. A court has now found that, to have these secret agreements, and they were actually lying to the victims in some cases, saying, oh yeah, we think it's going to trial. Look, the FBI agents were furious about this. They thought they had enough to switch what are basically state charges, murder, child molestation, theft. These sorts of things are normally state charges. But you can get the federal angle, and the FBI agents absolutely thought they had it. They had girls being flown in from abroad and from other states to service Epstein. What's really sickening about this case, and a lot more, well, there's so many things, but as more and more comes out, I don't know if you saw the articles today.
The ones that all refer to Jeffrey Epstein as Donald Trump's friend and never mentions anyone else?
That media is insane. I don't particularly want to correct it because, as you say, I've been trying to get somebody to take notice of this case for 15 years. To be able to turn on TV and see Epstein's mug on TV constantly with everyone denouncing this and talking about what horrible behavior it is. Oh my gosh, this has been a long time coming.
Right.
Look at yourselves here, media. You buried this case for, well, I guess they started to look at it a few years ago.
Oh, because Hillary was running. Yeah.
So I sort of, if that makes them happy to pretend it's a Trump scandal. I mean, as everyone knows, Trump, I don't even know, it is not clear if Epstein was ever a member of Mar-a-Lago. I think his alleged procurer, Ghislaine Maxwell, I think she was the one who was the member. But back before any of this broke, before anyone knew this, Donald Trump banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago for life because he had hit on a towel girl working there. Trump finds out about it, that's it. I never want to see him at Mar-a-Lago again. 2 years later, this story breaks, and oh yeah, the media totally ignored it. So it's crazy, but if tying this to Trump will get the media to pay attention to it, then fine, have at it.
We will leave it there, but if you want more, read her latest column at AnnCoulter.com about the Jeffrey Epstein story. And actually, just Google Ann Coulter, Jeffrey Epstein, because literally she has, in fact, been writing about this for over a decade. And I appreciate you joining us and giving us a little bit of your vast knowledge.
Good to talk to you, Larry. Bye-bye.
Always good to talk to you. That's Ann Coulter, and that's why we love her. 425 WMAL, traffic and weather. Every 10 minutes, first on the fives. Ed Rodriguez is in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
Oh, boy, she's exciting. And so is this traffic. What you need